At this point, we now go to the Senate, where we have Rappler multimedia reporter Dwight de Leon reporting live. Dwight, what did the prosecution think of Acosta's templated answers?
Yes, John, tila nakuha ni Acosta ang pika ng impeachment court ng prosecution ngayong araw dahil nga sa tila paulit-ulit at templated nitong mga sagot sa mga katanungan ng prosecution pati na rin ng senator judges. Sa maraming beses kasing tinanong si Acosta today, ang mga punto niya lang ay number one na itong ibinigay niya yung confidential funds kay Colonel Raymund Lachica dahil sa utos ni Vice President Sara Duterte at itong si Lachica ang security officer ng pangalawang Pangulo at pangatlo na si Lachica ang may kaalaman sa confidential operations ng Office of the Vice President. Sa mga linyang ito umikot yung excuse o justification ni Acosta kung bakit niya nirelease yung pera sa isang non-accountable officer na hindi covered ng fidelity bond. Taliwas ito sa mga palatuntunan sa ilalim ng 2015 Joint Circular governing the use, the utilization of confidential funds. Sabi ni Prosecutor Amando Virgil Ligutan kanina, tila canned yung mga sagot ni Acosta. Sabi rin ni Senator Tito Soto, ayaw na raw niyang marinig yung mga templated na sagot ni Acosta. Kinall out din ni Ligutan si Acosta kanina dahil sa tila selective memory nito. Hirap daw itong sagutin yung mga tanong ng prosekusyon patungkol sa naging papel niya bilang special disbursing officer ng Davao City. Pero nung panahon na ng depensa na magtanong ng similar questions kay Acosta ay mabilis naman daw nitong nasagot yung mga tanong nito. So parang magic daw na suddenly naaalala na nito yung naging papel niya, yung naging kampanya niya bilang SDO ng Davao City. Sa direct examination ng prosekusyon, inamin ni Acosta na sa kanyang submission sa Commission on Audit ay nag-rely ito heavily kay Colonel Raymund Lachica, pati na rin sa mga dokumentong ibinigay nito. Kabilang na dyan yung mga bagong acknowledgement receipts na presenta ng prosekusyon ngayong araw na naglalaman ng signatories na tila may kakaibang mga pangalan, katulad na lamang ng Antonio Pagong, Shane Ngit at Timon Andrew Pusa. Sabi rin ni Acosta, wala na siyang kopya ng resibong nagpapatunay na tinanggap ni Lachica itong confidential funds dahil ibinalik na raw itong acknowledgement receipts kay Lachica. Wala raw din official receipts maging yung 75 million pesos in medical and food expenses ng OVP noong 2022 under confidential spending. Sabi ni Ligutan, tinanong niya si Acosta, hindi mo ba lang ba tinanong itong si Lachica kung saan napunta itong medical expenses na ito o kung bakit walang official receipt. Pero ang sabi ni Acosta, tinanong naman niya si Lachica dahil napansin niya ang ibang acknowledgement receipts ay walang petsa o walang lagda. Pero ang sagot daw sa kanya ni Lachica, kung anumang mga binigay niyang dokumento, yun na raw yun dahil sensitive at confidential daw yung mga impormasyon. Sa isang ambush interview kaninang tanghali, sinabi ni Prosecutor Terry Ridon na naniniwala siyang makukulong si Acosta dahil nga sa naging papel nito sa pagwaldas ng public funds. Pero importante rin daw na makulong si Vice President Sara Duterte at matanggal ito sa pwesto. Kasama natin ngayong hapon dito sa programa si Congressman Rog Gutierrez, isa sa members ng prosecution panel. Magandang hapon po, Congressman Rog.
Good afternoon, Dwight, and to everyone watching, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
This is the second time na makaharap natin si Congressman Rog dito sa ating programa. And si Congressman Rog, isa sa mga talagang very careful when it comes to the sub judice rule. Pero dahil tapos na naman yung pag-examine sa hostile witness na si Acosta, Congressman, can you walk us through behind the strategy of the prosecution today to handle Acosta? Kasi naalala ko last week may ilang observation saying na parang the prosecution or Ligutan was quite gentle towards Acosta. Pero that doesn't seem to be the case today.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Dwight, for that caveat so that the viewers would understand where we're coming from. Of course, we have to approach this sub judice rule very carefully, so I'll do my best to try to indulge po, no? As for the strategy, I wouldn't say that there was an intention. I think those are just the pundits, no, who are saying that possibly Attorney Virgil was trying to be gentle. But I do think that just comes to a matter of personal style, personal strategy for Attorney Ligutan, perhaps. But definitely, what has been the guiding principle for the prosecution is that what we want to do, no matter, although we are advocating for the prosecution, what's important here is that we have the testimony that would elicit the facts. That's basically it. We just want the truth to come out. We want it to come out in a way with the facts and evidence in the documentary. I mean, relying on the documentary evidence that has to be presented. With that, it's not so much as to the style and how to approach a witness, but what would best, put them at ease, perhaps, or to be able to speak. I think we have to admit that there's some sort of a communication barrier. So I think that's one of the things perhaps that was noticed from last time. I don't know how that changed now, but I think that's all I can say as to the strategy of the prosecution.
But Congressman, what do you think of her demeanor today, Acosta? How do you think she handled the questions? Kanina may pagkakataon din na tinanong ni Attorney Ligutan kung nakausap ba niya yung defense lawyer ni VP Sara in the past 2 weeks? So what do you think of Acosta's demeanor, the way she answered the questions?
Okay, two things to go to Dwight. No, the first that we could say is, although I don't want to characterize how the testimony came out of the witness, but what I can speak of is some of the observations of some of their senator judges. I do have to say that the senator judges really asked the right questions today. But they asked in a way that really highlighted, certain facts that are inconsistencies, if any, of the witness. I really have to, we have to give it to them that while we understand, especially when we're talking about witnesses, hostile witnesses, it's hard to take their answers and face value. That's why they actually allow leading questions. But with the senator judges, they were able to elicit the truth. Or, if not the truth, if according to, okay, I guess I can say it because some of the senator judges said themselves, walang makukuha tayo dito. Some of them seem like canned responses, no? But from that kind of assessment, it gives you an idea of what kind of testimony was elicited. So that's one, just talking to the parents. But on the second, how it was more on the emotional level, I think you can see that she was very nervous. That's one thing that we have to consider also in the way that she was answering. Perhaps her personal nerves were coming into play here. But all in all, at the end of the day, what has to be taken into consideration when you're talking about the testimony of the witnesses is how does it relate, how is it in line with the usual human experience po, kung, if it is actually believable or not. So, yeah.
But Congressman, of course, we cannot stop the public from speculating the way she came across today, because it can be two things. It could be that she's feigning confusion or she's actually confused and lost. What does it say? What does it tell the Vice President that she hired someone like Acosta to be a special disbursing officer? It's a very important role because she's the one in charge of disbursing confidential funds.
Well, I can't characterize, what I would say of the accused boy here, but I think in relation to that, we just have to look at this is questioned precisely, I think, by Senator Judge Joel Villanueva. So I think we could just look at the answers there. He really asked about it. And she did say, the answer was it's just someone of average, I forgot the exact word, but it was something along the lines of average knowledge, average competence. But whether or not that's the truth, we'd have to see. Take the testimony as a whole.
Kanina po si Acosta, sinabi ni Acosta na si Lachica yung nag-implement nitong confidential funds, confidential activities. Pero despite the prodding of Senator Judge and Presiding Officer Cheese Escudero, ayaw sabihin ni Acosta na si Lachica yung nag-disburse. Parang she was too careful in saying that na si Lachica yung nag-disburse ng pera. Why, siguro as a lawyer and as a prosecutor, why is it difficult for Acosta to say that? And what would that admission entail?
Well, I have my own opinion on this. Unfortunately, with subjudice, I can't really characterize it. I'm sorry. But what I can say is that definitely the questions of the presiding officer did highlight this discrepancy. Factually, I think a special disbursing officer should be able to distinguish what disbursing means, especially vis-a-vis, in relation to implementation. Her hesitance, I think, has to be taken with the totality of the testimony. Some of the center judges have said, wala makuha tayo dito. Then you have answers like that, which are, seemingly she would know the answer, but they refuse to answer. So without me, spelling it out, I think we just have to take that testimony for what it is.
Okay, Congressman, may tatlong AFP officers na inirequesta ng subpoena ang prosecution. These officers were not in the pre-trial order, if I'm not mistaken. So who are these officers and what will their testimonies, bakit importante yung kanila magiging testimonya, if ever?
I could be mistaken po, no? I do believe they were part of the witness list. Maybe I'm mistaken, no? But if I do recall correctly, they come in for the disbursement of the DepEd confidential funds insofar as they were the ones that certified certain activities under the DepEd, which was used to justify the liquidation. I believe this goes into the youth leadership summits that were done in their respective responsible areas of responsibility. But of course, don't take my word for it. Let's just wait siguro po, for the actual presentation. But that's to my recollection.
Okay. Some of the members of the prosecution panel would say that if the need arises, the prosecution would also call in Colonel Raymund Lachica, which has been mentioned numerous times in the course of this trial. Hindi na po ba ito yung pagkakataon para ipatawag na si Colonel Lachica? Even the senator judges seem to be curious kung kailan hihilingin ito ng prosecution sa impeachment court.
Yeah, no, Dwight, absolutely, I agree with you. One thing that we have to consider, though, it's not so much as if this is, if there is a need to present Lachica now. But the question that we're asking usually with the witnesses is if there is still a need to present a certain witness. As you may recall, the strategy of the prosecution coming into this impeachment trial, we have a very, very long, exhaustive list of witnesses. And part of the issues that we've had is that it will be a long-running impeachment trial where a lot of the witnesses would be redundant or, in some cases, superfluous na. We don't really need their testimony. So I think that's one thing that we have to consider. Again, the prosecution panel as a whole has not, come up with a final decision if and when Colonel Lachica will be presented. We do understand that it would seem prime that he would be presented now, especially that his name has been repeated numerous times today. But we have to consider, I think, a sneak peek into how we look at it is that sometimes we have to take a step back, take a look at the whole picture, and specifically, for example, we might have to take this in parallel with the DepEd, depending on the presentation. So that's one of the considerations. Kasi step by step rin naman yung pag-present nung disbursement ng confidential funds. So we might have to do it in parallel with the DepEd. So it's something we'll have to see later.
But Congressman, would it really be redundant given na hindi pa humaharap itong si Raymund Lachica even during the House proceedings, so Good Government Committee inquiry, hindi rin siya lumabas noong clarificatory hearings ng Kamara during the impeachment process against VP Sara in the House. Would that really be redundant? I mean, it seems like he would offer a fresh face for the prosecution.
Yeah, well, again, I agree with you. That's a personal take, but one thing we have to consider also is that sometimes there are facts that you can establish, further facts, but you already have sufficient facts established. I don't know if that makes sense, no, without, I want to explain it, but at the same time, I'm playing it really safe. I believe that with the testimony of Ms. Acosta, a lot of things that were established, things that would have been, sufficient for the purposes of the presentation. I understand that additional facts would be presented if we're able to, subpoena Lachica, but we have to, Colonel Lachica, but we have to take things as a whole that there might be some facts that, okay, these are additional facts, but they are no longer necessary, or we've, already secured the case. I'm not saying that that's the reason, no, but it's one of the possibilities. I can't really say precisely what's going on with the prosecution, no? But that's as far as I can disclose, siguro, to our thought process when approaching the matter. But we hear you definitely. We do understand, front and center, his name has been repeated numerous times. Even the center judges have shared their opinion, and that's definitely top of mind for the prosecution right
But
now.
if I may ask, Congressman, and I don't know if you could answer this, hindi naman dahil ba, possible ba na takot ang prosecution dahil wild card itong si Lachica, that he could, we don't know what his testimony could provide? Is that a concern for the prosecution?
Well, definitely when it comes to these kinds of witnesses, for me, if my understanding of it is, that's not really a big consideration, because what's important for us here is to bring the truth out. No matter what it is, no? It's to bring the truth out, let the testimony and the evidence speak for themselves. With that as a guiding principle, I don't think there's any reason to suppress, to be afraid, if that's the way you say it, or to withhold witnesses, other than the fact that to afford expedition for the trial. I think, like I mentioned before, that's what we did with the previous article. We tried to trim it down as much as possible. We want to trim it down because, as we can see, it's going to be a very long trial, and as much as possible, if the facts are established, bam, we're done, we move on.
Congressman Rog, I'll turn it over now to John, who is in the studio. John?
Thank you, Dwight, and hello again, Kong Rog. Thank you for making time to join us. Just a couple of questions, if you don't mind. First, about 2 weeks ago, Senator Judge Amy Marcos raised the possibility, or her theory, that the SDO is actually the real accountable officer in the OVP and also in the DepEd. No? Maybe it's not so much the Vice President's responsibility. Given today's performance by the witness and also last week's performance, do you think this gives the lie to that theory? I mean, parang hindi credible yung idea ni Senator Amy na ang totoong accountable officer dito for the disbursement of $500 million pesos is actually the SDO?
Well, Sir John, I'm really in a tough spot here. I really wish I could answer that. I don't want to characterize how the testimony that we've heard today could possibly, influence how the Senator Judge should appreciate, especially the interpretation of law, the conclusion of law. But I think what I can say, siguro po, is that the testimony established certain facts. Number one fact, that cash was withdrawn, it was given to Colonel Lachica. Second fact, it was done purely on the basis that, on trust, because the Vice President personally identified Colonel Lachica as the person to hand over the funds to. And third, that this was a pattern, as elicited by Presiding Officer Cheese, no? It was a pattern that was done also in Davao po, no? So during her tenure as a mayor. So I think without characterizing the testimony, I think those facts should be considered when you're thinking about that theory that was mentioned by a certain Senator Judge Bono.
Thank you, Kong Rog. And one last question. Do you think that Prosecutor Ligutan was able to actually lay the issue at the doorsteps of the Vice President after her questioning of Gina Acosta?
I think that's a conclusion that would be best left to the Senator Judges. But personally, I just think that the prosecution did its best, and I think it did a sufficient job to bring out the truth and the fact that could have been elicited from this witness.
Thank you very much, Congressman Rog Gutierrez, one of the 11 public prosecutors. And thank you also to Dwight de Leon, our multimedia reporter, reporting live from